I had a client come to me recently and ask how they could completely avoid credit losses. They wanted no credit losses at all. I told them it was very simple. Had the answer immediately. It was act like a fast food restaurant. In a fast food restaurant, the customer comes in, the customer orders, the customer pays, and then the customer gets the product. You do that, you won't have any credit losses. The client said, well, I can't do that in my industry. People expect credit. I said, aha, now we got to talk.
Bob Bernstein breaks down complex business law issues in his most requested presentation, Robert's Rules of Credit.
The first rule is know your business. What can you stand in the way of credit losses? What are you willing to risk? If you want no credit losses, then you'll be leaving sales on the table because you have to have customers that want credit. That's just the way it works in the world. They often talk about the 3 C's of credit, and the first C is character. Who is your customer? That means you have to get a credit application. That means you have to investigate the credit application because it'll make all the difference in the world at the end when it comes time to collect if you have to do something to enforce the obligation. Under the first rule, know your business, you have to set some of these policies. How much time, which means money, do you want to spend investigating the credit sale? If you have, for example, if your average sale is $100 and you have a 5% margin on that and you make $5 on the sale, you can't afford to spend very much money investigating credit. Now, you can't afford very many losses either unless you have an extremely high volume. There's the second C, which is capacity. What is your customer's capacity to pay? What's their cash flow? What other obligations do they have? Where does their money go every month? The third C is capital. And that goes to the assets of your customer. Assuming that you make the sale, extend the credit, don't get paid on time, is there something to collect from?
Bob skillfully explains your rights in credit transactions and ways to mitigate credit losses.
What can you do both in the extension of credit, because in the United States there are rules about who you can extend credit to, how you do it, what you can say, what you can ask, who you can ask, all those sorts of things. So you have to understand what your rights are to do these investigations that we've talked about, and what your rights are in the collection process, since you must assume that some of these people aren't going to pay. On that score, there are lots of options for you to document the credit transaction. We've talked about the credit application, which can have terms and conditions on it, which are very important to you. Things like interest rates if they don't pay. Things like collection costs if they don't pay. Attorney's fees. Why do I always smile when I say attorney's fees? Attorney's fees if they don't pay. Invoices, purchase orders or order acknowledgments. All of these sorts of documents can have terms and conditions in them that you can bind your customer to, so you have rights to collect attorney's fees, collect interest, etc. You also have to know your limits about what you personally or your organization is capable of doing. We all try, or we should try, to focus on our core competencies, to do what we do best. And sometimes credit investigations, credit analysis, credit decisions is not going to be within your core competency.
Bob Bernstein began his legal career at age 14, working as the sheriff's liaison in his father's law firm. Today, Bob is the managing partner of the Bernstein Law Firm, a family-owned and managed law firm located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, renowned for its expertise in bankruptcy, retail and commercial collections, lease enforcement, creditors' rights, and mortgage foreclosure. Bob Bernstein is board certified in creditors' rights and business bankruptcy by the American Board of Certification and was named a Pennsylvania super lawyer for 2004 and 2005, a designation awarded to the top 5% of Pennsylvania lawyers.
My father, with whom I practiced for many years and from whom I've learned much, talked to me about a story when he was in business before he went to law school. He wanted to expand, and he went to the bank to borrow a significant amount of money at that time. And after the local banker, talked to him about it, he said, "Is Marlene willing to guarantee this?" Marlene, my mother. And they talked about it, and they went back to the bank and said, yes, she's willing to guarantee it. So the banker authorized the loan. They had a closing set. They went to the bank for the closing, and there were hundreds of documents to be signed. And at the end of the signing, there was nowhere that Marlene had to sign. So my father said to the banker, "Well, I thought you said you wanted Marlene to guarantee it." And the banker said, "No, I didn't ask her to guarantee it. I just wanted to know if she would. I wanted to know if she had enough faith in you, she had enough confidence in you, that she was willing to put her world at risk." Bankruptcy is a household term these days. One of the most prevalent roadblocks to collecting your account receivable, your credit, is bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is everywhere. It used to be there was a real stigma attached to bankruptcy. People didn't want to file bankruptcy. People were ashamed that they filed bankruptcy. It's now being used not only as a means to get out of debt or reorganize, but it's being used as a business planning tool. In recent years, one of the major retailers in the country filed bankruptcy not necessarily because it couldn't pay its debts, but because it wanted to close stores. And as we'll cover in a few minutes, one of the things that a reorganization bankruptcy can do for a business is allow the business to get out of its contracts and not suffer significant monetary obligations.
Bob's presentation will address a variety of specific issues in the areas of collections, creditors' rights, and bankruptcy, including benefits and risks of extending credit, drafting credit agreements, contracts, and terms, the 3 C's of extending credit: character, capacity, and capital, getting customers to pay quickly, do's and don'ts of the collection process, U.S. bankruptcy law and its effects on your collection efforts, participating in the Chapter 11 process, differences between federal and state credit laws, debt recovery including pre-litigation collection efforts, finding and working with a good collection agency, determining when to involve an attorney in collections, overview of a lawsuit, and repossession of property. For more information about Bob Bernstein, or to schedule an interview or speaking engagement, contact Celia Rocks of Rocks to Heart Public Relations.